Well, Happy New Year! Happy New Year! Welcome to 2018. I actually stayed awake till midnight this New Year's Eve. That's been an unusual phenomenon for me lately, but I got caught up in a movie, and that was somebody said that usually puts me to sleep, but it must have been a good one because before I know it was midnight. So, well, this month I decided, since it is a Happy New Year and a prosperous New Year is something that we normally say, I chose to highlight in this month Eric Butterworth, who is a Unity minister, had been a Unity minister, his book, Spiritual Economics, The Prosperity Process. And so that's what I'd like to highlight this month. Now, before I get started, though, in your program, there is a piece of paper that if you weren't here last Sunday, or even if you were, take it out again and look at the qualities of God. Because I'm asking you, and I asked you last week, to look at these qualities of God, to come up with which one or maybe two you would like to emulate specifically, wholeheartedly in the 2018 year. And I had the recognition before last week that I know what mine are. Actually, I did do two of them. But I came up with unity and a splash of wholeness. And the reason why I knew that that's something I needed to emulate more in this coming year was because I found myself hearing, the little voice that comes up, hearing myself being critical, judgmental of myself and others. And I recognized that, I heard that, and I don't like that. That's not what I want to process. That's not what I want to multiply in my life. And so what came to me was, if I see everything as whole, everything as one, how could I criticize it? It's like, if everything is my body, how could I criticize my little finger for, having that crook in it? Right? And so how could I criticize anyone or anything if it's part of me? If I am this wholeness, then I am this perfection of God. That's what I want to see. And so that's, for me, that's why I chose what I chose. But you've got all the other ones available to you. You can have abundance. You can have balance, beauty, freedom. I've chosen that one a time or two. Joy is always a good one. So is love. So is order. Peace, power, unity, wholeness, and wisdom. It's funny because yesterday I went to, I had this to-do list where I, write out what I need to do. And something happened in the morning, and I decided, this sink needs to be cleaned up. So I opened up the cupboard to get out my cleaner spray that I like, and it wasn't there. And I had had a lady come and clean earlier in the week. So I thought, what did she do with my cleaner stuff? I want it. So then I ended up cleaning out everything under the sink, of course, looking for it because it wasn't there. And then I went into the sink in the kitchen because I thought, well, maybe it got put in there, pulling things out, cleaning up everything in there. And then I wanted to put something away in a little Tupperware dish and opened up that cupboard, and it's way down on the floor. And it's a big, deep cupboard. And so literally I'm sprawled out on the floor, and I got my head in this cupboard, and I had a flashlight, pulling everything out of there. My daughter, Becky, looked at me, and she goes, "You look like you just slid into home plate, Mom." But it was amazing. So for whatever reason, yesterday, order was on my agenda. Because they weren't on my list. So at one point I thought maybe I should write them down so I could cross them off. Yeah, I have done that. You're right, I have done that. So we want to look at our lives and recognize that all these qualities, these God qualities, we have in us. Fully, completely, all the time. And sometimes we want to highlight more so one over another. And so as I was preparing this lesson this morning, as I'm reading the book, I was reminded how, of course, again, it's my focus, I'm looking and seeing the words wholeness and the word unity. As I wrote in the thought for the week, taken from Butterworth's material, Jesus the Christ told us, I have overcome the world, which means he kept himself centered in the inner, unseen realm of wholeness, of unity, and with the infinite source and substance of all. As we go within and close the door to worldliness, we open and bathe ourselves in the infinite splendor of true prosperity at every level of the human experience. And so Butterworth was telling us that this centering process is really the key to achieving prosperity, because that's when we are aware that we are literally in the whole of God, in the whole of the universe, that every point is fully complete. Butterworth stated, considered in the broadest sense, prosperity is spiritual well-being. This involves the whole experience of healing life, satisfying love, abiding peace, and harmony, as well as the sufficiency of what Aristotle called the furniture of fortune. Too often the tendency is for the teacher and student to become so preoccupied with the demonstration of jobs and bank accounts as to forget that the person is a whole creature in a whole universe. While in this work we are focusing on spiritual economics, we are forever conscious of a backdrop of spiritual ecology, the truth that sets us free from all problems of human experience. And as I read that, it so reminded me of the visioning process that I've listened to time and time again with Michael Beckwith. And it's a process where it's 4 stages of spiritual maturity, basically. And you start out in the victim stage, and then you go to the manifester, and you go to being the channel, and then finally the 4th stage of this visioning process is as God, through me. But what he said at the very end of that whole segment, it's a 6 CD program that I'm actually going to offer us here in January. I thought it would be perfect, so we'll hear more about that later in our announcements. But what he talks about at the very, very end of it is the fact that once we go through this process, and of course it's not like check off the box, oh yeah, I'm done with victimhood now. You know, it's a fluid thing. But the reason that we are wanting to elevate our spiritual maturity is to get all of our house in order, so to speak, to get all of our systems working so that we don't have to keep concentrating on the rudimentary and on the elementary things of living. We've got those things handled. And so therefore we are more open and available to allow this infinite spirit to work through us. We don't have to keep working at all these elementary things of life. And so our topic this morning is entitled The Truth About Substance. Substance comes from the Latin word substare, which means stand under. And it is the unseen material substance that creates everything. We know life as form, as material, as stuff, things that we can see, hard things. But within every physical being, in between those molecules and in between those atoms and in between all those little finite particles is a space, is a nothingness. That's what holds together and generates everything. You know, the idea of creating a room, you make all these 4 walls and you have a room here. But what makes a room worth anything? It's the space inside the room is the reason for having it. And so what we're talking about today in this substance is that non-material space that creates everything that we are. And so we want to stand in that. We want to know that that is the truth of what I am, that my infinite substance is right here. Like a fish in the water, you know, they're swimming around in the water, and so many times they're like, oh, I need water. I need to have it. Where is it? Where is it? And they, well, you know, this is like an analogy, obviously. You know, a fish doesn't really think that. But we are like these little fish. We're here swimming in this infinite substance, and we keep thinking, I got to get more. Can a fish get any more water? It's there. Can we get any more substance? It's here. That's what it's all about. We ourselves, though, choose, probably unconsciously, unknowingly, many, many times, to, instead of seeing the abundance, instead of accepting this infinite substance, we put our blinders on and we limit and we look at the illusion of lack. We look at our bank accounts, or we look at, you know, our relationships, or whatever the realm and the area that we're playing in, and we think it's not enough. We had quite a series in November on gratitude. Because when we are grateful for what we have, more of that comes forth to us. Jesus the Christ told us, he said, ask and you shall receive. One of the things that Butterworth talks about in this book is the fact that we need to generate. We need to raise our hand and ask. Life is all around us, but we are the ones that are to select, are to choose, are to bring forth with our intention what it is that we want to have made manifest. Give and it will be given unto you. This world is a world of order. We live in this world of order, meaning as we put it out, it will come back to us. We have a job to do. It is up to us to name and claim what it is we want to have in our life. And this consciousness that we are will draw to us more of itself. As we talk a lot about consciousness, consciousness is where am I in my thinking, in my feeling. That's what I'm going to draw to me. I'm going to share with you the reading that I read yesterday from our Science of Mind magazine. Margaret Storch is the author of the daily guides this month, and I just love her. She's great. Consciousness will out. From the Science of Mind, as we bring ourselves to a greater vision, we induce a greater concept and thereby demonstrate more in our experience. This is very applicable to today in a new year, in a brand new year. What are we looking at here? Among other things, we are beings of consciousness. We have within us the mind of God, the capacity to take thought and shape it according to our own lights. All of this becomes our special take on what we call consciousness. We can perfectly or imperfectly understand our relationship to God, and our lives will unfold accordingly. Ernest Holmes, in a lighter moment, wrote that we do not gather roses from thistles. Of course, we might say, but often we are not considering, that our thistle-like thoughts will not produce a sweet-smelling, rose-like atmosphere. Our thoughts are reproduced in our lives according to the law of cause and effect, which follows the adage, as a man thinketh, so is he. As within, so without. Knowing this, the wise person pays attention to the general flow of his thoughts. Are they benevolent? Do I expect the best of myself and others? Do I calm myself in contemplation and meditation so that I think clearly? It is worthwhile minding our minds so that we do not get off track and off center. Eventually, we keep no secrets. What goes on within us will reveal itself in the course of our lives. Scary thought, perhaps, but it may remind us that our consciousness is always coloring our lives with health or sickness, joy or unhappiness, success or failure. We hold the key to our own well-being. The divine good fulfills me, always has, always will, and I access it every day. I am aware that my consciousness of self unfolds every day. My thoughts are healthy and loving. To be aware of our thoughts, to be aware of what we are inside, knowing that that is what we are drawing to us on a daily basis. I watched a short little video, I think it was on Facebook this last week, on Audrey Hepburn's life. And it was very interesting. She was born in 1929, and when she was a child, her family moved to Holland. And of course, the Nazis invaded, and it was a horrific time for her. She had literally was born of nobility. Her mother was an aristocrat, but they had everything taken from them. It got to be where the food was very rationed. She became sickly. Before that, though, she had taken ballet lessons, and she was a beautiful ballerina. But her mother and the parents had divorced. They were fighting the resistance. They were helping, in this movement. And so Audrey Hepburn would dance. She would do these ballet recitals to silent audiences because they were clandestine, they were secret, and they were helping to provide money, funds, whatever they could get for the resistance. They said that she carried secret notes in her socks as a schoolgirl. But she became more sickly, and because of the lack of food and all that business. And so finally the war ended. She was 16 years old, and she decided her growth had been stunted because of the lack of malnutrition the malnutrition that she experienced. So she decided to go into acting. And of course, we all know, the fortune that she experienced in her acting abilities. That her first leading role was in Roman Holiday with Gregory Peck. It was 1953. And she had done some theater work before that and other things, but this was her main first leading role. And they were saying that, how they always make the posters at the time, how they're going to advertise this movie, and it was going to be Gregory Peck, and then the name of the movie, and then with her name as a little sideline down below, right, introducing. And Gregory Peck, in his wisdom, said, you better put her name exactly the same type font that I have in my name, because this lady is going to be a star, and I'll look like an idiot. I'll look really arrogant. Yeah. So he could tell. And it's interesting that with that background of that nobility, you obviously saw that on stage. I mean, it actually came out from her, through her. But at the very end, and of course then she was very popular and was very successful as an actress. However, then in her later years, in her 40s, 50s, 60s, she ended up being a humanitarian. She was very active with UNICEF. She went to Africa and to help the children there. So here again, this essence of her wanting to help people, resurfaced itself again in her later years. And she was given the Presidential Medal of Freedom at 62, and the next year, at the age of 63, she died of cancer. But the end of this video, I just loved it because what it said was, she never knew the word impossible. She never knew the word impossible, and here's the deal. If you say the word, vision it in your mind. How is it spelled? I-M-P. So if you say it like that, I am possible. What a change around. Just one tiny little nuance of, instead of thinking, oh, it's impossible, say, I am possible. And that is the truth of what we are. All of us. The I am in us as us is totally possible of anything. So I want you to literally come up with, what is my intention for 2018? Not just in the God quality that we've talked about. That's a little anchor. That's something that you can move into. But what is it that you want to have accomplished for your life in this 2018? And I will say, I'm going to offer you the CDs of Michael Beckwith's on a love offering basis. There's 6 of them. They're an hour each. We can play with how we want to present them here, either on Sunday afternoons or on a Thursday evening or something like that, because it's amazing when we take our intention and our energy into what it is that we really want to produce in our lives. What the value of that is. We're here, we just live our life day by day by day. And, the more we're on this earth plane, the more we realize that, how many more days do I have to live day by day by day? What is it that I want to accomplish in this heart of mine? What is my heart telling me? And so the visioning process is quite a bit about meditation, about asking questions of our soul and to listen. And then to step forward knowing that I am possible. If this is coming up for me in my heart of hearts, and my little ego mind is going, I don't know how to do that. That would be so hard. Whatever the dialogue that, those tapes, they come up all the time. We're used to them. We can put them down this year and say, that was then, this is now. This is the first day of the rest of my life. How am I going to live it? How am I going to be? How am I going to allow this infinite being to be itself through me? I want to wish you a Happy New Year. Some of you have heard this before. I've shared this with you before, but I think that it's applicable for today. May you have love and joy and laughter. May you have shelter from every storm. May your strength and bonding ever grow. May you live in peace with grace